Joining us now, our political panel, Bloomberg Politics contributor Jeannie Sheehan Zaino, visiting democracy fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center, our Democratic analyst, alongside Republican strategist Maura Gillespie, the founder of Blue Stack Strategies. Great to see you both here, and I wonder what you think took place in that room.
I'm thinking there's probably discussions being had on the way back to the Capitol, because senators and truly Republicans at large need to think about the role that Donald Trump has played in the past and what currently is happening. To Jeannie's point, he was very much on the ballot last night in terms of, especially New Jersey. You saw the exit polls that said people were voting for Cheryl, not because they liked her as a candidate, because they were voting against Donald Trump. That is a massive thing to be looking at, especially, in terms of how polarizing he as a candidate is and how he is as a president. But it's the policies and it's the lack of focus on the issues that he promised to address. This golden age of America that he promised to bring forth has not happened. And I think Republicans and leadership are thinking, okay, 2026, we need to figure out a new strategy, because Trump being attached to us may actually be a problem. If we don't turn things around, if we don't start really pumping into the economy like we promised, they're going to be the ones who have to answer for it, because Donald Trump's not going to answer for it. He does not on the ballot again. And he quite frankly doesn't seem to really care what happens in terms of no one's really seeming to stop him, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that the Republicans in Congress are having separate conversations from the president himself.
Really interesting. So Mikey Sherrill had a double-digit result here and flipped at least 5 of the Trump-supporting counties back to blue last night. What was behind it?
When you looked at the breakdown of different counties and how they voted in the past elections, there was also this, truly, it comes down to Trump, right? I mean, I do think that people who were voting against Trump, they weren't necessarily voting for Mikey Sherrill. They were voting against Donald Trump. And in similar situation with Jay Jones in Virginia, you're looking at people who weren't voting for him and as an endorsement of him as a candidate, because quite frankly, I think a lot of people had problems with him as a candidate, but they're voting against Donald Trump to say this is not okay what's currently happening. And they wanted to use their vote to do that. And Republicans, the ones who voted for Trump in large swaths, those MAGA diehards, either they didn't show up or weren't inspired by Winsome Earls and others. And so I think that's what you're seeing. I just don't think that Republicans are ready for what's coming in 2026 if they fail to address the issues that are concerning their voters, which is affordability. Mm-hmm. And it's not, rounding up children at their schools and deporting them. That is what you heard from many people who were giving exit poll interviews and their concerns. And they may have been Trump voters before, but that's not what they wanted, right? You're hearing this a lot, is that this isn't what I voted for. This isn't what I voted for. And so you heard a lot of that last night. You heard a lot of that today. People felt either compelled to switch their votes or not show up at all.
Maura, let's bring you in here with the Republican answer. What would you rather run against? A socialist who has great energy and momentum, or a moderate who can appeal to independents?
Easily the Mamdani. I mean, I think that when you look at his campaign, it's also going to be, something to watch out for is which version of him will we get as mayor of New York City? Mm-hmm. The person who has been running tried to tone down his rhetoric and try to, almost caveat some of the things that he has said in the past to make sure he could get through. People voted for Andrew Cuomo not because they liked Andrew Cuomo. They voted for him because they were scared of Mamdani. And that's really what happened last night. And I think, Curtis Lewa, I won't even go there, but that's the reflection that Democrats have to look at is, what does that say for them as a party? Yes, Jeannie's right in that they are trying to appeal as a big tent because there's this opportunity to take dissatisfied Republicans and bring them into the fold if they can, but they can't do that with the Mamdani as their center point. So I do think you're going to see campaigns on the Republican side really hoping to be able to capitalize on the New York City's newest mayor.
Is it a missed opportunity, though, in that speech, Maura, to not reach across the aisle?
I don't think that's his focus, right? He's not necessarily focused on that. It also shows that his inexperience and the fact that the emotions clearly got to him last night, and he felt compelled to be, which we saw a little bit in the debate, where his presence on stage was pretty smug at times. I'd say most of the time, but my opinion. But I think that was what came through in his speech last night, and so. No, I don't think he's seeking out a way to be part of the Democratic Party. I think he has his own agenda, and Democrats and that's why you saw people really hesitant to give him endorsements. They really were apprehensive at best. I mean, even Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, he gave a tepid endorsement. Chuck Schumer refused to. Barack Obama also struggled in that department. So I think that the Democrats are still feeling it out, but they have a bigger issue looking ahead to the 2026 midterms and how to galvanize people the way that he did did. And I think it starts by going and meeting people where they are, talking to them, doing the grassroots approach, and really getting into the weeds of the issues, but with people directly. And that's what they need to be focused on. And so do Republicans. I mean, again, I'm a Republican, and I think that our messaging has struggled to focus on the affordability. And it's where I'm hoping that Democrats like Senator John Thune will direct his colleagues to say, let's talk to our constituents and maybe distance ourselves a little bit from what the president's agenda has been.
Well, it's interesting what Jeannie just said. What is the Trump Mamdani voter? We saw him pick up, realizing it in the single digits, pick up Trump voters here in New York. Does that have to do with a certain style, not being a typical politician out of central casting, or does it actually involve issues?
I think it involves the fact that you're reaching someone, you're being polarizing. Again, they have so much similarities. They've been able to tap into what people's fears are. They've been able to tap into their concerns. And when Jeannie mentioned that people aren't going to be able to buy a home until they're 40, millennials there's been polls that show that they are the highest educated population, but yet the lowest paid. That's just a problem. And so a lot of the people who voted for Mamdani also probably voted for Trump in the sense that they're looking for somebody who's promising them affordability, promising them a brighter future that they currently have as far as the financial stability that they're seeking to get and currently can't find it attainable. So really that's what's been tapped into. Unfortunately, I think that we're being misled by both Trump and Mamdani because they have big promises that sound great, but when it comes down to how will this actually happen, it's not there.
Well, it sounds like maybe they have a lot in common then.